And hello, my fellow nerds out there. This is Uncle Richie, and welcome back once again to PokéMonth Countdown Special Series. So, it's finally time to talk about the type that I'm pretty sure everyone was waiting for. Fire. Being the most destructive element of them all, but with control and precision, it can be a well-used weapon of peace. And if peace, bringing peace means to burn everything into ashes, a winged fire lizard, then sure, why not? It's also kind of my intention that most fire type starters just have a higher base stat total just because, which is kind of unhelpful. Though admittedly, you won't be seeing too many picks like that in this list. And just like last list, I'm gonna be counting down 10 of my favorites of this type while giving some sort of justification to all my inane thoughts or insane thoughts, depending on how you view it. Anyways, with that intro out of the way, let's get burning through my top 10 favorite fire types. Typhlosion. Okay, first of all, before any of you even say anything, torches and pitchforks down. It has nothing to do with the leaks that happened a while back. It just so happens that Typhlosion happens to be my favorite fire types from the Johto region. Aside from all the other great choices like Magcargo, Slugma, and Houndour, and that's it. There's barely any fire types in the Johto region to pick from, okay? Just give me a chance here. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that I do like Typhlosion as a Pokemon. Its stats aren't all that bad, and again, just like Charizard, its stats just happen to be higher than Feraligatr and Meganium. If you guys remember my last video, Meganium was always treated as a bit of a joke, especially since Typhlosion and Feraligatr happen to be way better in their respective regions. But to be fair, Typhlosion does have a bit going for it. I do like its appearance in the anime, even though it only ever technically appeared in like one special, and that was about it. I'm pretty sure it did appear in the main series anime, I just don't remember when it did. Not to mention the fact that this Pokemon actually got Hisuian form quite later on. And to be honest, I really like the ghost typing that they gave it. It's just really well designed. I love it. It's so freaking cool. And honestly, I wasn't really expecting them to give it a ghost typing. I was kind of expecting a ground typing since it's based on a badger, or specifically it's a honey badger, which as far as I remember tends to live in burrows. But Pokemon does Pokemon, and Pokemon usually tends to not make that much sense. But aside from how much controversy this is probably gonna give me anyways, I might as well just go ahead and explain why I like this Pokemon so much. Basically, it's one big, powerful boy, kind of like Charizard, but it also is really freaking strong. There's just no getting around it. It's just a strong Pokemon. And honestly, it does have a pretty it does round out pretty much a lot of teams. And it came back in the form of its pre-evolution Cyndaquil in the Indigo Disc. I keep thinking it's the Blue Disc, no, it's Indigo Disc. So why do I keep confusing Blue and Indigo? I don't know. But despite all the hate and backlash that it's been getting recently, I still tend to find myself enamored with this guy. I think it's just a really cool Pokemon. And at some other time down the line. But to explain, Torkoal it's just one of those sweetheart kind of Pokemon. Like, yeah, it may not be a Pokemon that you'd use on any team, not even a place for a team for that matter, but that didn't really favor my love for it even the slightest. It's just one of those Pokemon that you tend to not really notice until you actually look into it and see that it's actually just very endearing. Now, Torkoal's stats are basically more on the defensive side than anything I've ever seen. In fact, it's one of the bulkier fire types to exist. Sure, it may not be as bulky as, say, Volcanion or anything, but it's still good. Right? It is still good, right, VGT? Right? I don't know, I'm pretty sure some VGT players in the comments are telling me that it's not that great and competitive. But that's not going to stop me from explaining why this thing is so beloved to me. It's the anime. It is mostly because of Ash and Torkoal in the anime being an absolute darling, sweetheart, and just genuinely emotional. And I don't really know what it is about it. Torkoal is just one of those Pokemon that I hold dear so much, but yeah, it's just that. It's endearing. Like I said in the beginning of this video, don't find me expecting to find any sort of valid or invalid reason to explain why I like these different fire types. I'm just against general consensus at this point, especially when it came to number 10. And number 9, it's even more of a difficult explanation. But you know, it's a little easier, I guess, considering that Torkoal did play quite a few good roles in the anime. Ash's Torkoal wasn't really that much of a pushover. In fact, it was able to learn one of the most powerful fire type moves out there, Overheat. And yeah, it really pulled Ash through on quite a few major battles, even though it doesn't have that great of a win-loss record. But we're just gonna try to ignore that. So but yeah, ever since it came back in Teal Mask, I really liked Torkoal. I even used it during my Teal Mask playthrough, and it's been a pretty beneficial help in every single battle that I've been in. Though granted, I honestly didn't give it as much attention as the shiny Yanma that I found. Seriously, the first step I took into Kitakami, I found a shiny Yanma, and I didn't even start shiny hunting yet. But yeah, Torkoal happens to be one of those Pokemon that I just love for no explainable reason. It's just something that I find adorable. It's something that I really wish I could have used in a Hoenn playthrough team. But the only Hoenn game that I have is Alpha Sapphire, and yeah, you guys can see that I don't think Torkoal would have been useful in that playthrough. Especially since it was Gen 6, and Gen 6 Power Creep was something, let's just say. But yeah, moving on to number 8. Honestly, Ember is probably my favorite firefighting type to exist. And yes, I know it's probably the third firefighting type that we've had in a row because Game Freak thought, hey, firefighting is a really good type, let's keep making them. And then we got Blaziken, Infernape, and Ember all in a row. Thankfully they kind of cleaned up their act when Gen 6 came around and thought, you know what, we can't do firefighting, let's balance that out with a fire psychic type. But back to what I was saying about Ember, it's obviously my favorite of the firefighting starters to actually exist in the time of this recording. Because, you know, Gen 5 happened to come around, reboot the franchise a little bit, and introduce Tepig, a very cute and very adorable fire type that Ash actually had on his team, and that he was able to evolve into Pignite, but never really quite into Ember for some reason. Although Bianca was able to evolve her Tepig into Ember, so I don't see why Ash wasn't able to. Being one of the the other firefighting type starter that's also based on this tale of Sun Wukong, aka well, not really Sun Wukong, but specifically it's based on the pig king from the Journey to the West story, which I highly recommend you check out. It's a pretty good read. Being based on the pig emperor. Sorry, I honestly should really script all this stuff better. concrete pillars and yeeting them back in its face. That is hilarious. And honestly, kind of makes me think of the implications of the move Flame. Kind of explains why it's a dark type move though. But you know, aside from that, I like Emor. It's cool. It has neat design, and I really wish that I could have one in real life. This thing would have made a killing mix competitive. Had it not been overshadowed. But you know, gym practice is Pokemon, and Emor just happens to work with shiny. And honestly, yeah, I'm guessing the editor version of me didn't really find the time to put any shiny version here, but you know, it's cool. Anyways, moving on. Argent Fire. So, when you guys thought that a Paradox version of the Legendary Beasts were impossible, Pokemon tend to just prove us wrong. So you guys probably know that I am a Johto baby. I love all Johto Pokemon, no matter how completely weak they are, or no matter how strong they are. And Entei happens to be my favorite of the three legendary dogs. I mean, yeah, Raikou is awesome, so the main one. Entei just has a special connection to me, especially since I actually did have VHS movie Pokemon between 3 Spell the Unknown, which featured Entei as the main big legendary of that movie. And seeing that it actually got a Paradox form, honestly, kind of confused me, which comes to the question, what Pokemon Entei, Raikou, and Suicune actually are. Famous theory says that they actually all three are the evolutions because the abilities, stats, and everything else kind of just matches up for some reason. But I don't really know. I think the Paradox defies that explanation and show that these things existed far beyond, and they were just Pokemon that have to make sense of these things. Yeah, Paradox Pokemon are confusing. But back to Gouging Fire, I really like this design because by turning Entei sort of into a Triceratops kind of Pokemon makes some sense a little bit, but I don't know. Paradox Pokemon again are weird and make very little sense. Although Gouging Fire happens to be my favorite one of the three, being as we were able to get Walking Wake and Iron Leaves earlier than these two, and yeah, these guys only came with the Indigo Disc update and not Kitakami for some reason, even though they were, I don't know, in Paldea's crater the entire time apparently. Huh? How are we supposed to know? I mean, I'm guessing that we probably didn't notice them when we first went down there with Nimona, Penny, and Merman. Like, how would you not notice a giant Triceratops-looking Entei that just happens to be roaming around? How do you not notice something like that? I guess we'll never understand Scarlet and Violet, even with all its quirks. But besides that, Gouging Fire's design is probably one of the main reasons why I like it so much. It's a dinosaur-like Entei. What more could you ask about it? That it also does its own signature move, but its own signature move, Blazing Bulwark, which is just a fire type version of Protect or King Shield. No, it's a fire type King Shield that burns the opponent and that doesn't really lower their attack or anything, but it does burn them whenever they hit an attack, a physical move on Entei. Honestly, I think. Wait, why did I say Entei? I mean Gouging Fire. And also, when I caught this Pokemon for the first time, I kind of always wanted to give Paradox Pokemon actual Pokemon names. Like, if Gouging Fire had a Pokemon name, I probably would call it something like Triceratops or something like that. It just sort of makes sense in my opinion. But yeah, Gouging Fire is just one of those Pokemon that I really, really like. I honestly wouldn't mind riding this thing into battle, and it just seems so cool. Plus most Paradox Legendaries, its stats, its moves, everything about it kind of busted, which is probably why they banned it in official competitives. that are a bit better than Pansear and Simisear as a whole, but I just kind of like Simisear. And when you KO it, you deal 2 speed EVs, which makes sense considering this thing's speed is 101. And yeah, its HP, defense, special defense aren't that great, but its offensive stats are okay in the slightest, being at attack and special attack of 98. Oh, and apparently it actually has a 100% chance through an event. There's actually an event in Simisear too, which actually gave it an air balloon for some reason. I don't really know why. The only event that it was in was the general election Simisear event. Where it had the air balloon item, Gluttony, and the moves Work Up, Home Claws, and I think those are the only 2 moves I can remember from it. That's basically it. I don't remember anything else about it. But it was a globally available event, and it's not available from Generation 8 onwards, which honestly makes me kind of sad. I kind of wish that it and its monkey brethren had more buffs over the years. But aside from that, I like Simisear. I'm probably the only person on this planet that ever will. Heatmore. Now, I know Heatmore once again seem like a very weird pick for this list, but I think I'm one of the only people out there that actually likes Heatmore. Its design is very interesting, being a fiery anteater, with its only natural prey being Durant, which ironically enough is a bug and steel type. 4 times weak to Heatmore. I see what they did there. But anyways, why do I like Heatmore so much is probably what you're asking. Well, it's one of the only Gen 5 Pokemon that ever got any actual freaking attention. And that attention only coming in like 2 generations later, where it finally got its own signature move, Fire Lash. I would say signature, that is, until they gave it to Salazzle for some inexplicable reason. It honestly didn't really make sense to give Fire Lash to Salazzle, in my opinion. Like, I know that Salazzle Dex entry states that it slaps any sort of failing male spider that can't bring it food with its fiery ball, but that's not a Fire Lash, that's a Fire Slap. Seriously, wait, how is a Fire Slap a signature move for Salazzle? Like, why do me and the fandom come up with better ideas than the actual creators of the game? I'll never understand. Anyways, Heatmore. Oh yeah, right, Heatmore. I was talking about Heatmore. Now, the Heatmore is generally a pretty underwhelming Pokemon stat-wise. It's only got a base stat total of 484, which isn't bad, but not that great either. It has good HP, physical attack, and special attack, but its defensive stats and speed suffering. Its lowest stat being speed, being at base 65, which, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad, but it's not too great either. It's generally one of those Pokemon that just sort of suffers in the middle. It's sort of in the middle of everything. And the best of times is a master of nothing. Its move pool isn't too bad. It gets Fire Lash level 35, and you can even learn other powerful fire type moves like Flare Blitz, Inferno, Fire Spin, and even Incinerate, which the secondary effect of Incinerate is very useful as to get rid of the opponent's berry. And making an opponent's berry completely unusable is very, very useful. And that's not even getting into the thing's ability, which also is Gluttony, but it can also have Flash Fire, which takes in any fire type attacks and empowers up its own fire type attacks using that very same fire. Its hidden ability White Smoke is also pretty useful, which actually originally prevented ability reduction. Nowadays in later gens, it just protects Pokemon with a white mist and protects them from any stat lowering overpowering moves, such as Leer or, I don't know, or even the ability Intimidate. And that as a whole makes Seymour a bit more useful when it comes to playthroughs. I don't know what it is about fire types that I genuinely don't feel very passionate about, but when it comes down to it, I guess I just don't like typing all that much. It's not that I don't like fire types, mind you. I love the designs and how creative they can be with them. But it's just every fire type they try to make, it always seems like they're trying to make another successful Charizard era kind of Pokemon. But Heatmore actually feels unique and intense, and it's one of those Pokemon that feels like I don't know, he doesn't want to be in the spotlight or anything like that. It just wants to be its own thing, do its own checklist, I suppose, and just make good of it. And with all that, I just think Heatmore is a very neat and very well-designed Pokemon, even though it only got attention in the Pokemon Station Gen 7, and that Gen 7 move was also given to Celeste. I guess we'll never understand Pokemon and their motives. But anyways, moving on to the next entry, we have Raboot happens to be one of my favorite middle stage evolutions when it comes to fire types. At the very least, is what I'm thinking. Middle stage evolutions tend to be very awkward and all that. Raboot tends to take the design and make it pretty smooth, and it works for its evolutionary line as well. Also, it kind of gave some pretty good emo teen energy, and we all know how we feel about that. It's not a phase, Mom. You just don't understand my poetic taste. But, aside from that, seeing Rabbit for the first time, I actually didn't think too much of it. But then I kind of relate to this little guy. He starts off as a very energetic kid that turns into a bit of an emo, and then turns into an actual good, amazing soccer player like Cristiano Ronaldo over here. And seeing Rabbit for the first time in the Pokemon anime, I honestly kind of liked it. Ghost Rabbit had a lot of personality and a lot of pizzazz to its character, and it was actually even shown to be kind and very careful about everything and everyone around it. When most fire types try to show absolute power or when a fire type just wants to look cool, I think Raboot is one that fits the boot even more. Mostly because it just has a really cool design, and seeing it for the first time, I just kind of relate to it. Its stats for a middle stage evolution isn't all too bad. It's actually pretty fast, and it's got a nice base stat total of 420. Yes, it is 420. Take that joke and do what you will with it. And it even has a pretty impressive attack stat of 86, which is pretty high for a middle stage evolution Pokemon. And not to and indigo color rather than pink and cyan. But or wait, maybe it could be magenta? I don't know. But aside from its questionable shiny, Volcanion itself is not too bad of a Pokemon. In fact, being a mythical Pokemon, it has the base stat total of 600. At least I'm fairly certain it's a base stat total of 600. I don't know, but that's what most mythical Pokemon, most mythical Pokemon have. So I just sort of assume it's just a good Pokemon in general, especially from its debut generation X and Y. Being the first ever water fire type gives it very Volcanion. It's one of the greater Kalos Pokemon, and honestly, I wish I could have seen more of it in movies, or even making a cameo appearance in the anime would help. Seriously, next episode of the freaking Pokemon anime, let Liko and Roy and Dot run into a Volcanion. That would be very interesting to see how it would play out. And my number one favorite fire type Pokemon is Chandelure. That's right, this one's for you, Wombo fans. So why do I like Chandelure a lot? Well, mostly my love for Chandelure is kind of recent. Thanks to everyone's favorite green Chandelier, Wombo over here. I just sort of liked Chandelure when I first saw it in the black and white anime. It's cool, genuinely imposing, and honestly, it's a very huge menace in Pokémon tournament. Seriously, every time I fought this thing, it would always start off with that giant laser that it shoots. And to be completely honest, it's kind of annoying to deal with, but once the intricacy of playing as a Pokémon clicks, it just works somehow. Not to mention, Chandelure also has very cool pre-evolutions, Litwick and Lampent, who have genuinely creepy Pokédex entries, which I never even think about to this day. My goodness, these things are scary good, and very terrifying to have in real life. Don't actually have a Chandelure in your home, because that's probably going to lead toward death casualties than life saving. But overall, its visual design is very cool, and honestly, choosing purple fire is a very, very wise move. I think the risks are very creepy, especially when you look at their actual origins. So naturally, having something hot with blue wisps is very, very fitting of it, especially since it tends to feed on giant blooms anyways. So more often than not, it sort of works. And that's to go into its whole Pokédex entries as a whole. Its original Dex entries means that it is roast spirit and burns away from the physical world, but it's exposed to hypnotic trance, which honestly makes it kind of weird how this thing can learn to lead hypnosis. Yeah, Pokemon is weird like that. This thing can read songs and be learned to say, why can't it learn hypnosis? It's next to me about how it can just, raging aside. Its other Dex entries can describe it before, having certain spirits be consumed by the flames that burn up on it, and it just leaves the bodies behind. That's very dark, and honestly very intriguing. I don't know, maybe it's because of my love for the paranormal that I like Chandelure just that much. In all honesty, it honestly makes sense now that I think about why Wombo himself lives in his dilapidated home. Because the King of Chandelure themselves actually live in dilapidated mansions, and Suicide aside, simply waiting for people to enter the mansion, so that it can consume their spirit. But aside from that, his return to Kitakami was just as big and impactful as I hoped it would be. And looking at its stats, while it only does have a base speed stat of 80, its special attack stat is skyrocketed to 145, which, yeah, is very freaking busted if you couldn't tell. And it strangely is weak to ground type moves despite being able to float. Yeah, that I never really understood. It does get 2 immunities though to normal fighting type attacks, which again aren't very common attacking types, but who cares? Being immune to 2 types is better than being immune to 1 or none. Not to mention it even gets really good moves like Confuse Ray, Hex, Will-O-Wisp, Fire Spin, Nightshade, Shadow Ball, even Imprison, which in its own right can be set up for pretty good mind games. Though that also comes crashing down once you learn all these are categorized as level 1 moves, meaning that this thing is yet again another stone evolution. But this time not with a fire stone, but with a dust stone. And honestly, if I could turn myself into a Chandelure, I probably would, but then again, I probably also wouldn't. I mean, seriously, what else would you do in a mansion besides haunted? Swinging side to side, and people notice the change. Okay, honestly, that does sound kind of fun now that I think about it.
try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason